Welcome to the OK Let's Learn podcast. This is two podcasts in one where we dive into great books and stories, and one where we dive into great tons of different topics. My name is Kevin O'Keefe. So today, let's learn all about Beatles. No, not the rock band. And yes, the insect. And yes, many people still think the famous Beatles, the rock band, were based on the bug. No, it's B-E-A-T, like the Beats, right? People have seen the name forever, but no, they still always associate it with the insect. And yes, it's an insect. And how is it different than our friends that we've already learned about, bees and ants? Well, most beetles have wings. And how about some very famous beetles that you may not associate with beetles? Well, the ladybug and the firefly are both beetles. And what stands out? What makes the beetle different than ants, bees, and a lot of insects? They fly. They have two pairs of wings. One pair is the elytra, which is this hard protective covering over the top. It's part of the exoskeleton. That red, nice, beautiful back of the ladybug, that's its elytra, and that's part of its wings. So the elytra lifts up, and it creates this lift, but it's the bottom wings, it's the soft flying wings that are underneath the elytra that make it fly. And when you stop and think about it, we've all seen this is how the ladybug gets up and moves around. But slowing it down, you'll see that, like I said, this elytra, it protects. It's almost as if it's a door that opens up. And there you go. Here's the wings that let it fly. But what's also unique, these beetles are known as the armored tanks of the insect world. Their exoskeleton is a tough outer coating. And this exoskeleton, along with the elytra, one reason that they have been around millions and millions of years, it protects them, not just from the elements, but obviously also from predators. They're not going to be tasty when they start chewing them. That exoskeleton is strong. Now to back up, insects are the largest group of animals in the world. And of the insects, what's the most numerous insect on the planet? Beetles. There are more than 400,000 species of beetles. Out of 1 million total insects on our planet, beetles are everywhere. Now, I've already mentioned fireflies and ladybugs, but how about this list? Are you ready? June bugs, Japanese beetles, click beetles, dung beetles. Yeah, we're going to get into them. Diving beetles, whirligig beetles, boll weevils, Namibian desert beetles, wasp beetles, bombardier beetles, tiger beetles, stag beetles, rhinoceros beetles, and the biggest beetle of all, the Goliath beetle. Talk about wanting to dive into tons of different topics. You could just spend days talking about all the different type of beetles, obviously, but we're just going to go through briefly some of them on the back end of the podcast, but some other details you got to know about beetles. The same as all insects they have a head, they have a thorax, which is their middle section, they have the back section, which is called the abdomen. You can refer back to my podcast on bees and ants and all about insects, a separate episode. They also have 6 legs, they have 2 antennae, and they have compound eyes. Now, I don't think I've gone into details on compound eyes. Many insects have these, and it's not like just our eyes where we have 2 of them, obviously. They're made up of these compound eyes are made up of thousands of tiny lenses that are bundled together, not just with one lens, with our individual eye, but each tiny lens sees a small piece of a picture, and the beetle's brain mixes them together. So this helps the beetle see in tons of different directions, almost 360 degrees at once, and it can detect quick, fast motion to obviously help them. Again, you're talking about why they live millions of years. They've been on our planet a long time. These eyes really are helpful. Now, their size. Some are tiny, smaller than a grain of rice. Some are huge, that are bigger than our hands. But most beetles are shiny like polished metal. Others look like pieces of bark or dirt, so predators don't see them, and obviously they blend in with their camouflage. But, like I mentioned, a rhinoceros beetle, I mean, some have horns that clearly stand out and help them survive. So in addition to tons of different sizes, there are tons of different colors. And what do they do all day? Well, they're busy. They have a lot of different jobs. What do they eat? They eat plants, some eat insects, some eat dead animals, some eat rotting wood. Yes, and be quiet. Some eat dung, otherwise known as poop. That's right. Beetles are an important member of the ecosystem, their ecosystem. And for my younger members of the audience, ecosystem sounds fancy. It's just where they live. It's different communities out on our planet. Look in your backyard. You've got living organisms and you've got non-living organisms. You've got the sun, you've got plants, you've got the water, you've got the soil, and they all live together in perfect harmony, at least, hopefully, in most cases. So because the beetles end up feeding on so many different animals and insects and wood, plants, you name it, it keeps the community healthy, the ecosystem healthy. Now, you may remember that bees and ants are social insects. Most beetles don't live in social colonies like that. They're solitary. Most of them live alone. So a beetle might spend its life hiding under leaves, crawling through the soil, living inside a log, swimming in a pond. Some beetles may gather in the same area if there's lots of food. Hey, let's have a party. But they usually don't organize in colonies like the ants and bees do. So let's quickly go through this list because you'll find this fascinating. The bombardier beetle has one of the most amazing defenses in nature. It sprays this hot chemical explosion from the end of its body, and the spray can reach temperatures close to boiling water, and it comes out with this popping sound. The wasp beetle almost looks exactly like the wasp, but it doesn't sting at all. It just looks dangerous. The Namibian desert beetle, it lives in one of the driest places on Earth, and it collects water from fog in the air, and it walks around as if their legs are stilts so that it doesn't touch the hot sand. The whirligig beetle, it lives on the surface of ponds and lakes, and you may have seen them spinning around in circles across the water. Right? They do this to watch for food and predators at the same time. Even more amazing, they have two pairs of eyes. One pair is looking above the water and one pair is looking below the water. Another water beetle, the diving beetle, it's developed this really cool trick of carrying oxygen bubbles underwater. They're trapped underneath their elytra. So they're always diving to hunt insects, tadpoles, you name it, underwater. You got the boll weevil. It became famous for damaging cotton crops all across the southern United States many years ago. Farmers had to work very hard to protect their cotton fields. Talk about invasive insects. This guy was really famous. And I mentioned the poop beetle, the dung beetle. Yeah, it rolls balls of animal dung and buries them underground. And it helps fertilize soil and remove waste from the environment. And apparently it tastes good to them. The tiger beetle. It's one of the fastest running insects in the world. It hunts other insects and can run so fast that sometimes it outruns its own eyesight. Check that out. The stag beetle has giant jaws that almost look like deer antlers. Most stag beetles use their jaws to wrestle each other while competing for their girlfriends. Yes, a stag is a guy. The rhinoceros beetle has a large horn on its head, as we talked about. Despite its kind of like, scary appearance, it just mostly hangs out and eats fruit and plants. Some rhinoceros beetles are strong enough to lift many times their body weight. And yes, the Goliath beetle, the one of the largest insects on Earth. It can grow to be as big as a person's hand and weigh more than tons of other insects combined. Now let's wrap up our podcast with some fun facts. A lot of beetles play dead when they're threatened. We talked about all their colors, and a lot of the colors basically say stay away. I talked about the fact that they've been around millions of years. How about this? 270 million years they've been around, long before the dinosaurs disappeared. Scientists still are discovering tons of new beetle species every year. I talked about the fact that many can live underwater and a lot of them can live in deserts throughout the world. They live throughout the world. Lots of beetles help with pests with farmers. I have mentioned that. And the firefly obviously glows in the dark. It's a beetle. And they produce this light through a chemical reaction. And in case you don't know, those lights are out there so they can look out for their friends and find their friends. Like ants, they have mandibles, unlike butterflies and mosquitoes. So it's basically they have strong chewing jaws. The jaws let them chew plants, woods, other insects, like I mentioned, hard seeds as well. Some beetles can change colors. Certain beetles, how about this beetle? The tortoise beetle can actually change the color of its shell depending upon being stressed out, upset, maybe it's drying out, there's not a lot of moisture, maybe it's getting old, and certainly when it passes away. But believe it or not, it doesn't change color based on like a chameleon does with the predator approaching. Very interesting. The fireflies, they don't just light up as adults. Some fireflies, their larvae glow even more brightly. People will call them glowworms. You'll see them occasionally. Some beetles actually eat and farm fungus. Certain wood-boring beetles dig tunnels and trees and grow fungus inside the tunnels, which they eat. It's almost like they're farming fungus. And in case you don't, my younger members of the audience, fungus, what is that? Well, it's that like fuzzy stuff that grows on trees and leaves. They're actually like nature's recyclers. They help break down old plants and dead things. They're living and they grow on dead plants, wood, or even food to help break them down. Mushrooms are fungi. Mold. On old bread, you don't want to go past that expiration date. On bread, you'll see it turning green. You'll see it like get fuzzy all of a sudden. That is a fungus. So yes, beetles, in some cases, love fungus. Some of the larvae of some of the bigger beetles, their larvae are bigger than a human thumb and can weigh more than a small mouse before turning into adults. Some beetles walk on water plants. Yeah, they have tiny hairs on their legs that repel water, helping them walk easily over floating plants without sinking. They can detect smells with their antennae, their super sensitive noses, their antennae, and they can get the smells from plants, foods, anything. And surprisingly, the smell, they can grab that smell from far away. Beetles molt as they grow. Because their exoskeleton is hard, young beetles have to shed their outer shell several times as they grow larger before becoming adults. I don't think I mentioned this, but they do go through a complete metamorphosis. If you weren't listening to my previous episodes on insects and bees and ants, it starts with an egg, then it goes to a larva, then it goes to a pupa, and then you're an adult. The larva is basically like the worm, the baby, and yeah, they spin this cocoon-like shape, the pupa, that allows them to change from basically like a little worm to their wonderful, amazing looking adult self. How do they communicate? Well, like many other beetles, especially the cricket, they use some of their body parts to chirp. And how about this one, which is so different than some of our bee friends and our ant friends? The ladybug lives about a year. The firefly, believe it or not, can live up to 2 years. But the typical beetle, it really ranges. Some beetles can live only a few months, and some will live up to a few years. And what's interesting about our firefly, listen to the life cycle of the firefly. The eggs, 3 to 4 weeks. But the larva stage, the glowworms, right? They're living up to 2 years. I mean, they hunt snails, the slugs, the worms, so they're just hanging out as babies for a long time. The pupa stage is short, 1 to 3 weeks. And yeah, when you see them out flying as adults, they're only living for that time period that you do see them around July 4th up here in the Northeast, 2 to 4 weeks, and that's it. So friends, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction to beetles, all about beetles. The big takeaway when you're thinking of them versus other insects, especially the ants and the bees, they're solitary, they hang out by themselves, and they're the armored tanks of the insect world, that hard outer skeleton. And one of that piece of exoskeleton is that elytra that lifts them up, and underneath you've got the flying wings that takes them off. Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. As always, appreciate the reviews and the ratings, any podcast platform of your choice. And yes, we do have a big announcement. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything works, and I'll let you know where else we will be out there so you can listen to the podcast in another location. Until next time, have fun and keep learning.